Hello and welcome back to the Immaculate Confections YouTube channel for another tutorial. Today we are making some beautiful Purple Oxalis. So it's a leaf, a foliage that you can add to your designs that isn't green. I love using foliage that isn't green because it gives you another opportunity to add colour and play with sort of the designs, compositions and colours and stuff of a floral piece. This live was originally recorded in 2024. As we used a lot of it for our feature at Cake International, where we did a almost life-size, would you say?
Yeah.
In fact, it was life-size, wasn't it, really? Garden, entirely made of sugar flowers. If you've never been to Cake International, have a Google because it is the world's biggest cake show and, in our opinion, by far and away the best one. If you enjoy this with the colourful foliage, do have a look on our website because we've got a foliage class that's got, I think, 8 or 9 different foliages in there, different colours, different shapes, different styles, etc. that you can use to enhance your sugar flowers. I hope you enjoy the tutorial. And we will get started. So, flower paste, of course. Oh, there's some other bits of colours sneaked in there from I don't know what. And I always forget to say this because I always feel like, I'm using my own flower paste, which is available on our website. It's nice. It's soft and stretchy, but not too squishy. It doesn't dry too hard, and so on and so forth. So we will colour this up with some purple and magenta. We're going to use some heart cutters. So it's a set of 3 that I've got. I'm not going to use this bigger one. We'll use these 2 smaller ones. Let me grab a ruler. So from like across, not from the point, across the width of it, this one is about 2 centimetres and this one here is just shy of 3. Don't sweat it if you've got different shapes, and if you don't have hearts, then I'll show you how to hand cut these as well, because they're basically triangles. And actually, when I was making a bunch of them before, they kept making me think they look like a whale's tail.
Yeah.
Like a fish tail. So I shall begin with some magenta. The sort of colour we're aiming for is that, so a sort of dullish plum. It's a really pretty colour, isn't it? So I'll pop some in. I don't want to be too conservative, but I don't want to go wild either. And we'll knead that in. I kind of smeared that all over, which has made this a little more challenging. There we go. And as always, we can add more, but we can't take it away. So start with a bit, and if we need to add some more, we certainly can do. And then we're going to add some purple, and that will dull it down and give us that lovely plummy tone. Actually, you can see in that we want, I think, a little bit more of the magenta, which I will do, but again, like with the size of them, don't sweat it too much. When everything's together, it's just going to look natural variation, which is pretty much what we want. Yeah, that's about right. So these ones, you can see it's ever so slightly purplier, but that's going to be absolutely fine by the time they're dusted, and so on. That will be absolutely fine. Okay. So I shall roll a little bit out. If we're sticking, of course, we can use a little bit of corn flour, which we probably will, because I'm sure you will all join me in being what's the word, frustrated yet not surprised that we are managing in the UK for the weather to be hot and yet there is no sunshine. So I am
well, that was when
sticky and disgruntled about it. Okay, as always, fairly thin but not so thin that we're going to create a liability for ourselves. They're just leaves, so also don't sweat it. And I'll do a couple. So let's do a couple of this size and a couple of these littler ones. And I'll save that because we can hand cut one or two. We're going to take a cutting wheel, knife if you prefer, but I do find it's easier with the cutting wheel. And basically, just follow along and cut the bumps off, like so. So you can see what the bit I've cut there. And again, you can see I've cut a bit more here. Don't worry, nature is not perfect. No, it's just muggy. I wouldn't say hot necessarily. It's not sort of pleasantly hot. It's just muggy. So that's it. And that's where I was saying, if you don't have heart cutters, although I imagine most of you probably do, because hearts are one of those things that you end up acquiring once you've been doing the cakes for a little while, you can, of course, simply, if you cut a triangle-y shape, and then we can just run across the top and make a little bump like that. So that, doing it by hand will be absolutely fine as well if you've not got the hearts. So we want to make those a little bit wider, which we can do in one of two ways. We can use, so this is my veining stick. I'm not using the veiny bit here. I'm just going to use the straight bit at the top and just roll it over like that. And you can see that's stretched it out. So that's one way. Or alternatively, if you prefer, although I do find this easier personally, do you know what? I dug out an old white one because it's a bit of a weird colour doing the pink on the pink. Alternatively, we can just come and use a ball tool just to stretch it out ever so slightly, like so. Whichever you prefer is absolutely fine. I've done these on 28 gauge dark green. They are eventually taped up with the plum tape, but I went for the dark green because if any of it shows through, it's going to be much, much less obvious than if they were on white. And as always, we can just use a quarter length piece. You know, it's not so long that it gets in the way or is wasteful, but equally it's not so short that it becomes a bother to tape. And we will do a little twiddle to attach them. So I will show you how to do this. I know lots of you know, but what is it Leanne always used to say is consider the new reader.
Consider the new reader.
I'm sticky, so I'm just going to grab my little pot of, okay, a bit of Trex, just because my hands have had it. Right, so to do a twiddle, we just want a little tiny sausage of flour paste on our wire, and then that's what we're going to press onto our leaves so that it sticks. So we'll make a little sausage. I will pop a bit of water onto the wire, and then there's a couple of ways we can do this. So you can pop it on the top and then twist and twiddle it down. And this is definitely one of those things, the more you do it, the easier it becomes. And we can just remove the excess there. So that's one way. Another way that you can do it is to wet the wire insert the paste and then roll it out on your petal pad, like so. And again, the more you do it, the easier it becomes. I'm not the best at this because this is not how I tend to do it all the time. You can also, if you prefer, and this is one of those of just see what works and feels right for you and your hands. You can do it, but roll it out on your workboard. Like so. And this is always with thanks to our lovely students who are like, oh, I don't do it like that, I do it this way. And so it's not a right and a wrong, it's just whatever you prefer. And the final way, and I'm terrible at doing this, so do bear with, but I know I have some folk who prefer this. So again, wet the wire, little sausage, and then what they do is they push it on down the wire and then twist it up, which I find incredibly difficult to do, but if it works for you, it's all good. So I will just finish this one off like so, and then all we will do is, that's a little one so I can use it on a little one. I'm just going to pop a little bit of water on there. I'm going to pop my leaf on top, and then I've just got a really simple rose leaf feiner. Yes, it's you, Jane, that twiddles up, and I can't do it, but I think of you every time. I'm like, oh, here's another way to do it. Just line it up with the middle, give it a good press. Actually got a little bit sticking there. And then what I tend to do always with things is I'm just going to come around the edge. And can you see, it's just given it just a little tweak of movement. Nothing too much. Oh, Jen does as well. Nothing special to dry these because the leaves themselves are quite flat. The shape comes from where they're taped together. So just pile them up somewhere. I just tend to stick them on a petal pad and then I can move this around as they're drying. And then same again for the bigger ones. So obviously this is a bit long, my twiddle, so I shall line it up to the top of the leaf there. Again, press that on. Oh, there you go, everyone twiddles up apparently. And then look, you can just pinch away the excess underneath. And again, just that little bit of shape. And this is what, like I said, I'm sitting there, I'm like, they look like fishtails. Colour-wise, we have the firm favourite of violet pink. We've got some pure purple and we have got some plum purple. Are the three that we're using. And what we're going to do is go up with some plum purple. Is that showing there? Can you see it all right? Up with some plum purple, and then we will come in from the edges at the top there with some of those. What am I talking about, plum purple? I'm so sorry. Please ignore that previous comment. Violet pink in the middle, upwards, and then we're going to do the purples around the edge. Yes,
Must the 3 petals be the same size?
Yes, you want 3 of the same size so that you end up with smaller ones and bigger ones. Like
with your
so.
hand cutting them roughly?
Yeah, more or less, yes. And I realised that making 2 of each was not helpful in that regard. But yes, 3 of the same size, like so. And then dusting, contrary to what I just said, which is very wrong. We'll start off with our violet pink. And this, we just want to come from the bottom up so that we've got a nice flash of that brighter colour in the middle. And the violet pink on top of our base pinky purple colour there is just, oh, it looks so nice. It is a firm favourite, this colour. Always has been, and I think probably always will be. So just up from the middle, and I shall do them all, like I'll batch produce, because that's usually the quickest way to do it. So that's those ones, and I've got these 3 little tiddlers as well. Tiddler's a fish, isn't it?
Tiddler? Yeah. I mean, you would definitely describe a fish as a tiddler. I'm going to Google it now.
So again,
Yes,
just up from
may
the middle.
refer to a small fish,
Oh, there we
especially the three-spined stickleback tiddler.
There we go. Yeah, so I wasn't too far off with fishtails. Catherine, violent pink for Halloween is when it takes on its other mantle. Okay, and then we're just going to work some of our purples around the edges. So I shall start off with some pure purple. And we just want to have your brush sort of fairly perpendicular to the edge there. And just draw the colour in. And then we'll follow that up with a bit of the plum purple just to darken it. And you can see I'm being fairly liberal with sort of using and mixing these as I go because we just want those purpley edges. And they do, it's a really pretty colour combination. And hopefully, as you can see, it's easier on the larger leaves, obviously, but what we're after is having that that flash of the brighter colour in the middle, because when they're then taped together, you kind of get that central colour burst, which is really nice. Thank you, Deborah. They're really nice, these. I was pleased with them, because quite often I'll be like, oh yeah, we'll do this or this, and, you know, I worry about how afterwards. And yeah, these came out rather nice, even if I do say so myself. And I think they're going to be a really pretty flash of colour and of something different. And yes, they do, the shape is kind of ginkgo-ish, but purple. Absolutely. So yes, fairly liberal. And also, don't, like, when you're doing them, don't worry with the dusting if they're not all completely the same and uniform, because again, nature isn't, and all together. So taping, so we're using the plum wine tape. It's the perfect colour for these, and that sort of pinky brown colour. And I'm going to cut some to a quarter width because I just find it easier to manhandle it. And yes, lots of people do have them as houseplants. I, however, do not. Although, touch wood, I'm sure you will all be very impressed. Someone gave us, because we'd done them did them a favour, a sealed terrarium pot thing.
Oh, yeah.
And the instructions specifically say not to open it and to put it somewhere it's sort of shaded light, and I've done that and I haven't touched it, and it is thriving because I haven't touched it with my black thumbs. So to tape these together, start with one and we will just get that tape attached and just bring it right up to the top so it's nice and close. Hopefully you can see that there under the leaf. Bend it back a little bit. Take your next one, bend it back a little bit, and just hold him in place. And the trick is that you just want where it's triangle, you want the base of the triangles to be touching in the middle. Bring that tape round and add the last one.
Can they use brown tape on them?
Yeah, that would be fine. That would be absolutely fine. So you just want to make sure that last one is positioned so that the point of the triangles are meeting at the bottom there. Wrap it round and then we'll just bring the tape down the stem. I've got slimy hands. There we go. Like so. And then you can just open them up a bit, close them up a bit, arrange them however you wish. Same deal on the bigger ones. So again, we'll just get the tape attached to one, And just make sure you bring it up nice and high is the only thing. So that then we can bend that next one back and just nestle it in really close is the one thing. So you don't want any stem exposed before they meet, if that makes any sense at all. Like so. In terms of taping the little sprigs together, but there we go, like you can see they're pretty straightforward, and they're stunning. I really like them. Every so often you get to make something you go, oh, I really like that, and this is one of those. In terms of putting the sprigs together, we want something relatively stiff there so that we've got a hope to be able to push it in. What I've done with these is used a couple of bits of 24 gauge wire because I don't know why, but I seem to have about 4 packets of the bright green 24 gauge wire open. Who knows why? So I shall use that. You could use a piece of 20 gauge wire, you know, whatever you've got is absolutely fine. And I'm going to cut myself some half width tape, because I always find the full width a little bit much. So what we'll do is a couple of bits of the 24 gauge. We will get the tape on there and just pick one to start with. It doesn't really matter which one. And I will attach that to my stem. So this will just be the central stem of the sprig that we'll attach everything else to. It's quite nice. You want them at different heights and slightly different angles. So that's a smaller one there, and he's going to sit there beautifully. What you do want to do with these is make sure the way they grow, and think it's the same as like clover in the grass, it's not a branch with them coming off. Each of them has their own stem from the bottom of the plant. Now, if we were to be assembling the garden with each of them with their own stem, I would lose my mind. Gina would lose her mind. Chris would lose his mind. So, doing the sprigs like this is a bit of a cheats way, because if you think if we had half a dozen of these, we'd be able to make a decent sized looking plant, right? But you just want to keep those stems nice and long so that even though they're not all individual, it has the illusion of them being individual, and you've got plenty of movement for them to sort of flop about, would have a few drooping over and so on. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So with that in mind, you might need to just elongate the odd stem here and there to be able to put them on. So that you've got that nice bit of legginess to it. And that one's a bit shorter, so I'll save him, he can come a little bit lower down. And we want some height variation so that it's not just a static thing, but at the same time not too much, because we want to make a bush as opposed to a bouquet. Again, shout if this isn't making sense, because I feel like I'm just saying an awful lot of words. So that little one can go there. And actually what I might do is leave that one as it is. Just bring that all the way to the bottom. And you see, for all that I've not put anything very stiff in it, there's no 20 gauge or anything like that. I just snip that tail end off, because there's a bunch of the 24 there, that's more than enough to be able to stick in. So, and can you see, yeah, if these then start, because remember, it's not a cake, it's a garden. So just bear that in mind. But yeah, if you imagine those stuck in, it's going to accumulate until it looks bushy. So yeah, in the sprigs, if we say 3 to 5, with a couple of outliers if you want that have got 6 or 7, it's not a hard and fast thing. Also, you all know what you're doing, so, you know, trust yourselves. And by all means, if you're not sure, get in touch. This I can just do as a littler one. I'm just going to bring my tape down here so that I can attach that with the aforementioned legginess. Although, this will really bother me. I just need a bit more tape on that wire there. Whoa! Leapt out of my hand there. There you go. I'm just going to bring the plum tape down. You do, Mo. Do you know, it's funny. So this is the, believe it or not, this is the 4th time we've done this. Which, on the one hand, woohoo, go us, go team. But on the other hand, we must be mad. And it is
doing the features.
Yes, it is easy to become overwhelmed, but actually,
well, yes, it is.
But
it is easy to become overwhelmed by them.
You're not helping. But it works out. So, and the same goes for what you guys do. And I know I always say it, literally could not do it without you. There is absolutely no way on earth that we could do these things without you guys. So, yeah, thank you, always. Right, so this would be a nice little one of 3. And that, you know, I always say how the flower paste isn't brittle. I don't know, can you hear that?
Yeah.
I could hear it. That's what's so nice, is that for all that it's clickety-clacketing, it's not actually breaking into smithereens. So that, something like that would do as a 3. And do you see what I mean about how they're not all completely the same height, but we've not got anything too wild either. Because when we have, I'll do it on this. When they're all in, and we've got multiple little spriglets, hopefully you can, oh, I'll hold on to that, you can see how quickly, and imagine this underneath is brown as well for the soil. So I hope you enjoyed learning with me how to make some fun and pretty and different foliage there with the Purple Oxalis. Don't forget, check out our website for that foliage class. You'll find it under classes on our site, which is immaculateconfections.co.uk, and we will see you again very soon for another tutorial.